Hi, I'm DJ Ware. On this episode of the Cyber Gizmo, I'm going to be talking about ChromeOS Flex today. So what is ChromeOS Flex? ChromeOS Flex is the successor to Neverware's cloud-ready operating system. If you've ever used that, you probably noticed that Neverware always skipped about every other release of ChromeOS. ChromeOS Flex, by contrast, receives its updates at the same time that ChromeOS does. And ChromeOS can run on any x86 64 PC architecture. And that can be an old PC or it can be an old Mac. Of course, those both have to be Intel. If you have a M1 or an M2 Mac, it's not going to work. But what does Google say ChromeOS Flex is? So Google says that ChromeOS Flex is fast, secure, it's a cloud first, it's easy to manage, it's an operating system for both Macs and PCs. It is designed to refresh older devices. That is, it's trying to increase the performance and lifespan and keep them out of the landfills a little bit longer, right? There are some differences, of course, between ChromeOS and ChromeOS Flex. Even though both of them share similar underlying technologies, so there's some major differences. ChromeOS usually is shipped with hardware. It comes with a Chromebook. The Chromebook always, I don't know if it always does, but it usually includes the Google security chip, and that permits verified boot. If you're using your own hardware, you probably don't have a Google security chip, and so that particular function of verified boot isn't available to you. ChromeOS Flex instead uses the same mechanism that Windows does using UEFI secure boot. And that prevents unknown third-party operating systems from being able to boot. There are also ChromeOS performs, as part of its boot process, firmware updates automatically. That doesn't happen in ChromeOS Flex. It's normally the same way your PC does it. If you need a BIOS update or a UEFI firmware update, you got to do those yourself. The TPM and encryption areas for security are different between ChromeOS and ChromeOS Flex. The Google security chip also permits, both of them do encrypt your data, but the differences occurs when you don't have a TPM chip in your machine. You can't protect the encryption keys at the hardware level, and so you have some security, but probably not as complete, although personally, I don't think TPM is a complete answer anyway, but that's just my opinion. What about supported VMs and applications? So ChromeOS Flex, it doesn't support the Google Play Store or Android applications. However, in the version that I tested, you can mirror your Pixel phone screen for Android app access. Linux development environment support is present on ChromeOS Flex, and that gives you the potential to install other applications out of the Linux environment on your ChromeOS Flex. However, there are some caveats to that, and you have to set up that development environment. It isn't turned on by default. We'll walk through that today. ChromeOS Flex does not share the same keyboard shortcuts as ChromeOS. So if you're familiar with ChromeOS and you've been using ChromeOS and you're moving over to Flex, you'll probably find your keyboard shortcuts have changed. Some of the other differences between ChromeOS and ChromeOS Flex have to do with hardware. Things like CD-ROMs and DVD drives are not supported. Fingerprint readers and probably other biometric devices like iScan cameras are not supported either. Also, infrared is not supported on ChromeOS Flex, and neither is Thunderbolt, at least not yet. So I don't know if there's any plans to do that. However, if your device has Thunderbolt 3 or Thunderbolt 4, you can use those as USB-C ports. The other problems that you have, other differences between ChromeOS and ChromeOS Flex have to do with performance. Because Google doesn't control the hardware on ChromeOS Flex, they can't make any necessary guarantees on how long it will take to boot your machine, how well your battery will last, or how long your battery is going to last, or even if there'll be any power savings between what you were running previously and because you're running the same hardware, it's drawing the same current. But ChromeOS Flex is free and it is open source. So Google says not me, this is Google again, says that ChromeOS Flex provides the option to live boot, and you can then run the OS direct from your USB device without actually installing it. Well, that gives you a chance to check out to see if your hardware is going to perform okay under ChromeOS Flex, and gives you a chance to maybe investigate whether your Wi-Fi, your Bluetooth, your Ethernet card is going to work, and maybe your storage devices, whether those are supported or not as well. So before you commit to actually installing it. ChromeOS Flex does not allow you to choose which drive it will install on. Usually it picks the first one, at least in my experience, which is limited to 3 machines that I tried on it, and it will delete everything. So if you've got anything on there, it's gone. And it doesn't warn you. It doesn't tell you which one it's going to erase. It's kind of a blind thing. So my suggestion is that if you have data you want to keep and you have an operating system you want to keep, remove it from the machine before you install it. That's always the safest way, if it's easier to do that. It is possible to dual boot ChromeOS Flex. Now, I did do that. I dual booted it with Fedora and Debian, and those work fine. I of course, don't run Windows, so I didn't test that. But it works fine as long as you're on separate drives. As long as you put your ChromeOS Flex on it, of course, you don't know which one it's going to pick, but if you remove the ones that are in there and place a new one in, then you're pretty safe and assured that ChromeOS Flex is going to go where you expect it to go and not overwrite your Windows or Linux machines. If those are installed on the same drive that you're expecting to put ChromeOS, like you only have one machine and you have partitioned it for Windows and or Linux or both, forget it. It's going to erase it. ChromeOS, when it installs, will obliterate the partition. Let's walk through the install configuration, and then we'll do a little walkthrough and kick the tires on it, get some other stuff installed, and see just how well it works. And then we'll step through it. So I'm going to have to go here, and down here it directs me to the Chrome Web Store. I'll go there. I already have this installed, so I just need to go up here, make sure this is pinned, and it is. So you'll install this, and then the next step would be to bring it up. And then it'll ask me to get started. This is all right, so I don't have a model from the list because it is somewhat confusing, but what you want to do is go down here to Google ChromeFlex and do the same thing here. This is designed to run on any machine, and so, yeah, so this isn't going to matter much. All right, so no USB or SD card. Well, I guess it isn't there, is it? So let me get that in. There we go. And I'm going to take the inbuilt reader, and we'll go ahead and get started. Create now. Now, whatever you have on that SD card is history, is gone. Okay, so it's all done, and we can... Now, I have downloaded the ChromeOS Flex, and I have burned it to a USB stick. What I need to do at this moment is to get my boot menu up here, and then choose the first part. Now, do you notice there's 2 SSDs on here that are both NVMEs? It's going to take the first one and it's going to wipe it out, which is fine. I don't have any problem with that. It may even wipe the second one out. I don't know. There's no way to set it, so it decides what it wants to do. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. And as you notice, it was already set to, let me just back up a second, English, and that's US, and so we're fine. And I don't want to try this first. I want to actually install it, so that's what's checked, and that's what we want to do. And then it just gives you, before starting, make sure you have a backup of your data because it is going to blow everything away. Yeah, it's going to erase the hard drive. Unfortunately, it doesn't tell you which one. Now it's installing. Okay, I lied. How about 1 minute? It took about 2 minutes actually to do this. So it's complete. It's going to shut down on its own, but you can just remove the USB stick and reboot. So I'm gonna go ahead and shut this down instead of waiting for it. On the way back up, that it is indeed going to boot into the ChromeOS partition. We'll just check. Well, I'm not sure. I guess we'll try it. I think it blew this one away. We'll see. Yes, it did. That is definitely ChromeOS Flex. You can tell by the BMZ A, BMZ Linux A. Okay, so at this point, we're back to the Get It Started menu. And it's me. I want it. Now it's going to ask me to sign on. I'm going to go ahead and do that. Okay, it's loading. And then it takes you to the terms and conditions. I'll go ahead and accept those. Sync your Chrome apps. And do I want to let Google use hardware data to improve? Yeah, I guess so, because, yeah, it's new. This just went out of beta. It just came out of beta I think it was end of November, I think, if I remember correctly. So I don't want Google Assistant, so I'm going to just say, no thanks. Take the dark theme, and I'm all set. And then it gives you some information here about what it does and what you can do with it and so forth. So the first thing that I want to do is go over here and select the settings menu and come down here to advanced and then down to developers. And it allows me to turn on the Linux environment, and so I'm going to do that. Okay, and we're up. So I'm at the shell here, and let me, so I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm just going to go here and set terminal settings. And you can pick whatever you want here, and then down here is the text size. So I think I'm going to go to 18. So what are we running, first of all? Debian Bullseye. Well, the first thing we want to do is update. Okay, so it's going to bump my repo up, and then we'll go ahead and upgrade it. So let me go in here and we'll go ahead and get all those down. I don't think there's glances out here in these repos. Oops. All right, let's try to run it. Oh, I'm missing something. I don't know why it didn't get it. It didn't pick it up, but okay. All right, so there's glances up and running. That's going. Let's see how heavy of it. Now this is just the container. This is not giving me a view into what the system is actually doing, because I'm in a sandbox. I'm locked away from the rest of the machine. CISO. Okay. So. But it's been a while since I've done this. Let's see what happens what we get here on the security posture of the container. Oh, there's a long list. 60. Wow. I think that's the lowest I have seen. Yeah. Well, we have an SSH. We have an SSHD server running. I'm just going to come down through here and look and see if there's anything new and wonderful that's showing up. Besides this is older than 4 months. 4 months old. Yeah. This is probably 510 something. Unless they're underclocking in order to get additional battery life. Since they, no doubt, probably recognize that as a mobile processor. Now, this manage piece here allows me to reset the settings. And in here, you'll find I can manage USB devices. So I can pass USB devices into the container if I need them. I can also back up the Linux apps and files. Let's go ahead and do that. There's not much in there. I think the default size for this partition is 10 gig. Let me just see. I think I didn't even pay any attention. Yeah, 10 gig is so that's the default. Now I could have changed that obviously to something larger since it does have full run of the disk, because I don't see any way in here. We'll let that back up. I see port forwarding if I want to pass things. Yeah, I can change the disk size, but then what am I running for? Let's see if the man pages are loaded. They are. Okay, not telling me much. Wow, this really is a stripped down container. So let's try installing some applications here. Let's do Firefox ESR, LibreOffice, and GIMP. What? That should install everything in the world. Oh yeah, look at this. 378 newly installed packages. You can also share folders with the base OS up here. So probably I'll want to share. Let's create. And I'm probably going to want one for video too. Okay. Okay. My backup, I think, is done. Yep. That is the slowest I have ever seen. I'm running on a 1 gig network here. That is the slowest package installer I think I've ever seen. Okay, let's see how it manages it. Now your applications are over here under this. So looks like they have a nice little container here for them, but then they have continue where you left off up here. So let's see. So there's Firefox ESR. We'll see how long this takes to launch. Okay. What version is it? Oh, 102.6. Okay, so that's current. Nice. Okay. All right. Just wanted to make sure. Go ahead and close that up. And then let's go see. I think Tech Hut was having some issues with the drop-down bars, but you know, I think when he reviewed this, this was still beta. So let's just see if we have that same problem. Yep, okay, automatically expanded the window. Let's put some text out here. Okay. And let's pick well, that's kind of a purple, isn't it? I want more of a blue. It's still kind of purple. Ah, well, you get the idea. All right, let's try to do a save. Let's see where it gives me a choice to save it. That's not good. Stuck it over there. Buried it in the top of the window and buried it to the left. That's not good. Okay. Let's see, if I bring this down, will that help? PNG, yep. Flatten it, yep. Okay, let's leave one of these down, whoop, and then just hook it. Let's see if it happens to me. It's doing its usual. I'm going to just ignore you. Yep, same problem that he was seeing, or it left left us hanging. And he said, just pick one and it'll go away. And it does. So the app was still running there, obviously. Yep, that problem is still there. See if it does it under LibreOffice. Probably does. I'm going to probably guess it does. Oh. Okay, I'll save as. Again. Okay. All right, let's leave that down and do the same thing here. Okay, now that one cleaned up after itself. So yeah, it's probably something in the way the application is closing up things, rather than being a issue with this. Now, what I want to test is, let me get out of here. Let's make sure that we are still at 10K, and we are. Hey, what do I got to lose? All I can do is blow it up, right? Let's change this. I can make it smaller. Wow, that's hard to read. All right, let's resize it. I'm not having a whole lot of hope for this, but hey, I didn't have to do any extra work. Nice. One of the other things that's kind of annoying too is, watch. So there's only one option, and that's to turn it off, to power it off. We'll come back up. Don't worry. It's kind of annoying. Oh, this is going to take a while because it's got to take down the Linux container. Okay, it's off. All right, so let me bring it back up. Okay, it's coming. And YouTube. Automatically switches to dark. Block that. Okay. I better go to mine, I guess. Okay, don't have any. Well, the audio is coming through the HDMI cable, so. But I don't really care about that so much. I'm really more interested about this. No. All right, so I completed the install. I did some testing with it. I did attempt to run Phoronix Test Suite last night on my Intel NUC 6th Gen, and it failed. It just blew up. Well, sort of. It sort of hung. So what happened was I did my usual set of tests, which is about 42 different passes, including the tests and the passes to go with it. That usually takes about 4 hours to run. And I noticed that Phoronix will always tell you at the start, this series of tests is going to take X number of hours and minutes to complete, estimated, and then it updates it as it goes through. But usually it says 4 hours, and last night it said 7. So I thought, well, okay, I'll come back in the morning and we'll see what's going on. But I checked on it a couple of times last night to see where it was before going to bed. And I noticed that it had gotten through the 3rd primary test, and it had started to bring up the 4th, and it had frozen. And the counter was still running, though. I mean, it was, Phoronix was saying it was jumping to 1 day, 28 minutes, and then it jumped to, it just kept sitting there every time I came back about an hour later. Came back an hour later, and it said 30 days to complete the test, and I thought, okay, we're done. I just stopped it. It was definitely hung up. It wasn't going any further forward. In fact, it was at the same place after 4 hours. So it should have completed the whole test on Linux, and here it didn't even complete the first 3. So the other problem I ran into was with the Lenovo X1 Carbon Extreme. That has an NVIDIA card in it, and it does have 2 modes that you can run in. You can run an integrated graphics mode where you just use the inbuilt Intel Iris graphics drivers and graphics hardware. Or you can run in hybrid mode where it will use both the NVIDIA and the Intel to be able to do graphics. The hybrid mode worked fine on the primary display, but when I added a secondary display to the hybrid mode, it froze. It kind of updated the screen for about a half a second, and then it just froze up. And the mouse on the first try, it wouldn't even move over there. I was still in the box on the primary screen. The second try I did it, I was able to move the mouse over, but it was still frozen. Nothing was clickable. And it had the old screen up for the settings where I was changing the display. It hadn't even, updated for the new display settings. So I thought, okay, I'll try a couple of things. I'll try turning off and make them. You can turn off the main display, close the lid, see what happens. Nah, no go. It still froze up on the secondary. And then I thought, well, maybe I should go disable the hybrid graphics mode in the BIOS, and I did that. Brought it up in integrated graphics mode, and that failed to boot at all. It looked like it was missing VSync. On the monitor just because of the pattern it was displaying, so I thought, well, either ChromeOS Flex is trying to put the monitor into a mode it didn't understand, or it was just frozen, because I never saw it move beyond the squiggles that it had. Usually it'll keep doing that, keep painting the screen with garbage, and it didn't. It acted like it was completely froze up. Other thing about ChromeOS Flex which is nice, is it does have an OpenSSH server that is installed by default. So you do have that if you want to use it, but you will, of course, need to know your IP address in order to get there first, or go look it up if it's doing DHCP. So is it worth trying to install Google Chrome OS Flex? You probably get tired of me saying this. It depends. It depends on your use case. If your PC or Mac is out of support, the operating system is no longer being upgraded, like you're on Windows 7, Windows 8, something like that, it might be worthwhile, but don't expect it to perform at the same level as it was before under Windows. because there's additional overhead on ChromeOS Flex that isn't present on Windows. And second, OS Flex is really designed for casual internet use and social media access, email, that kind of thing. It's not meant for heavy lifting applications like video editing or running games. It does not perform well in those situations. The third piece of advice is pay close attention to the certified list of computers and models. Those work. I have one that's on the list. It worked fine, no problems at all. And doing multiple monitors with it, no problems at all. With Wi-Fi or Ethernet or Bluetooth, all of those came up. But of course, those are NUCs. I did not try any newer hardware than the 10th gen NUC. I didn't try the AMD device. I want to keep that, and I don't want to blow it away. If it isn't on the list, chances are you're going to have problems, because I did. I have two machines that are on the list, and both of them exhibited problems. So the next question that you're probably going to ask is, can it replace Linux, a Mac OS machine, or a Windows machine? Maybe, but not completely. If one of your PCs is going to be stranded when Windows 10 goes end of life in 2025, and you're going to have to go out and buy new hardware to support Windows 11, or you're going to have to jump through all kinds of hoops that Microsoft could close on you at any time in order to get your hardware up and running. Don't bank on those kinds of things running. I mean, unsupported features usually are discovered and closed by software developers. So, yeah, if Microsoft's ideal is to support this class of hardware with these features in it, and you're doing unsupported workarounds, you're on gray ground, and anything could happen. I would never recommend that you would operate a machine that way. If you're a developer and you're wanting to use ChromeOS Flex as a development platform, if you are doing web-based applications, JSON, JavaScript, Node.js, it's probably fine for that. If you're doing anything heavier than that, you're probably going to find limitations with it. I mean, it is based on the Linux container is based on Debian. And most developers, you can use Debian to do development, but just realize you're going to be, on older versions of the compiler, older versions of the linker, older versions of the library. So, it may not be suitable for that kind of an environment. At least I would not. I don't do if I'm doing development, I don't use Debian to do that. I run Debian as a server. So I'm going to end today with a quote by Dynatrace. Dynatrace just released their 2022 CISO research report on cloud security. And some of the concerns, I don't know if you've seen this, I'll put a link below where you can find it. Some of the concerns they are raising are troubling and very worrisome. They said, modern cloud-native delivery has made it increasingly difficult for organizations to reduce and manage enterprise risk throughout the software development lifecycle. The article goes on to explain why. The problem is three different things that are happening. First, the number of CVEs is exponentially growing. Now, the security researchers are definitely doing their job, so that's great. However, that's swamping the support staff in these large cloud environments and trying to keep up with them. Second problem is that the number of open source applications that have these long chains of dependencies, we saw that somewhat in Log4j, where Log4j had a problem that cascaded up into hundreds of applications that were depending on it. The software bill of materials is an issue that if it's found deep, it can flower into a huge amount of work in order to get all the updates in time. The third problem they're having is as soon as they get the system updated, they get swamped with additional CVEs. So it's like a vicious circle, and they are wearing out. Even with automation that they have here to help them keep the systems up to date, they are struggling to try to be able to make sure that the systems are maintained and are secure. Plus, they're finding that some of them are requiring workarounds, and this is the third problem, are requiring workarounds that are undoing their defense in depth strategies. Well, on that brief note, I hope you enjoyed this video today. If you did, please like and subscribe, and consider security before you put your data in the cloud. We've already seen that on a number of applications this past year in 2022. I suspect 2023 will be even more of those. I don't think that's a hard thing just to predict. Hope to see you all again real soon. Bye for now.